Welcome back to the PricePlow Podcast. I'm your host. Well, I'm one of the co-hosts, Ben Kane, and we got also CEO and founder of PricePlow, Mike Roberto, here today. And I think that today is going to be a really fun kickoff. It's just the PricePlow Podcast starting over again. We've had a lot of different issues of this podcast. We've done different versions of it, and it's kind of been like ad hoc. But one of my commitments for the remainder of 2021 and hopefully next year is to do this weekly. So I figured what better way to jump on and do a kickoff with Mike. And we could talk a little bit about the year, what's been happening, and take it from there.
Yeah, welcome everyone. Today is September 28th of 2021. We recently had Doug Miller on. That was episode 50. And for a while, I've been telling Ben, whenever we have a phone call with somebody, I've been telling them that Ben, like we got to prioritize the podcast. I love listening to podcasts, and there's no reason that we shouldn't do it. We have access to a lot of interesting and intelligent people, and we have our own thoughts as well. So today we can just do a jam session ourselves. So yeah, I want to double, triple down on podcasts and not just have, audio feeds just popping up every now and then when it's convenient for us or when something happens. Like, we should make it more regular, and this is that. So thank you, Ben, for helping with the initiative on that.
I think it's a really good point. Like, you kind of brought it up. Like, for me, podcasts, so I'm like a big Rogan fan, right? And so Rogan never podcasts on his own. He brings in outside people, and that creates the topic. But I think often I forget that you and I have a lot to say that we can talk about. Probably because I'm always voicing my opinions on Instagram. So it's easy for me to forget that we have this whole other channel that we can do this on. So without bringing on, Doug was great. He did a great episode, and we've got a few lined up for the next 2 weeks, but we should be doing this on our own as well, because we have, how many subscribers on YouTube, how many followers on Instagram that do follow just to listen to us. So I think that probably every here and there, I don't know how frequently, but we should be doing these podcasts on our own to just air our own thoughts without other opinions. So, So it's been a fun year. I think the last time we did this, just you and me, was when I came out to Austin at your last place, and we did it in your backyard.
The rental, yeah.
And that was end of 2019.
2019, yeah. We haven't jammed for a while, and the other one was like kind of our award ceremonies that didn't totally count, So that was like a hodgepodge of videos. I when those kind of days happen, I'll put them into like one audio feed. But yeah, we haven't done a proper podcast, so this could be like kind of a catch up, kind of a what's up in 2021. But eventually, the idea, and we can get as good as we want. The idea is to get into more recent events, what's been happening, and maybe even like get fancy with OBS, have a screen share where we can like kind of like troll through the news and look at the actual articles we're talking about. If there's like a study or something that happens, we want to share that without having to do any post editing. So a lot of stuff you can do with that OBS software.
One of the people that I was super inspired by is Fouad Abiad, who obviously owner of Hostile Supplements. He does these podcasts very much like we do it, but uses the screen share like super strategically. He's always pulling up posts for people to discuss about all in the podcast. And I think that's one thing that we talk a lot, and we bring on experts that have a lot of this stuff memorized, but having that visual application is really important. So I want to be doing these regularly to the point where people can expect them every week coming out. And if we don't have a guest, I think we can always just hop on and talk, because there's always something going on. In the last week, it's funny. Sometimes I wish we could share our text messages just to show like our commentary on the industry. Obviously, that's not something I'm comfortable doing, but the idea of it is funny.
No, just like, in general, I'm like, screen grab this and throw it on a story. Cause like sometimes we have crazy thoughts, and we of course have opinions, and a lot of them don't even have to do with supplements and everything too. Okay. We've been covering this for a very long time, and there's other things happening in the world, and those other things that are happening in the world are affecting our industry. So it does dovetail together. And we got into that with Doug. So there is a ton going on. I want to keep up to it. I'm going to throw you for a loop right here, right now, and say that I do believe it's time that we bring in someone else to help with some of the extra content and writing, scheduling, and things. Now, with all that said, like, part of this goes back to what we did with Doug, is that we were talking about a lot of supply chain issues and the price increases and everything. And I wanted to put this off, and I still may put off getting help until we have a little bit more clarity what's going to happen this winter, because I think I am very bearish in terms of the whole supply chain fiasco, and everything else that's happening with basically this whole monetary reset that's being thrown upon us through like whatever 2030 seems to be the year that everyone talks about. So I am very cautious of bringing someone in just so that everything falls apart. If there's no supply chain, there's no supplements. So there's no supplements. Right. PricePlow is not going to do well. If no one's buying stuff, no one's going to, if PricePlow doesn't do well, and then we have to release someone that we just brought on, that would kill me. And so I want to avoid that at all costs. At the same time, we're overworked, and you're bullish in terms of the supplement industry, which is awesome because that's something I told you to screen grab. Like Ben is super bullish in terms of supplements and the sports nutrition aspect, and people still want to train. And I have a lot of thoughts on what's going on in the world, obviously, but when I go to the local Y, there are the kids that are still getting after it. Like I'm old at this point. I realize like getting back into the gym out there, I'm like, dude, I'm the middle-aged guy now, which is totally fine. I'll wear that hat. The only young pups, I'm going to say the guys in their late teens, early 20s that are getting after it in the gym are the ones that are already super fit. They are not going to stop buying supplements. They are not going to stop training. Honestly, I think that a lot of the less than fit individuals, let's say the metabolically unhealthy, dysfunctional ones, they seem to have given up in terms of like at least going to the local gym. And that breaks my heart. It crushes me. It really does. But at the same time, we are here to talk to some people who still want to get after it. Don't care what else is going on in the world. I'm getting my set in. And that's, and so that gives me the bullishness for the supplement industry, which gives me the bullishness that we should be able to bring in someone, a like-minded individual who's got talent. And so I'm throwing that out there right here, right now. Like let's start talking. If you think you are a kick-ass writer, I have, so like I'm able to handle things on my own when the day goes perfect. You throw one wrench into my schedule and everything falls apart. For instance, I just finished, phone calls, they happen. Wednesdays we have phone calls and stuff. And those days of my writing is not going to be as productive. And recently we built a play set for our daughter. And it's not the biggest thing in the world, but it ain't no small play set either. And so I just basically finished the concrete footers yesterday. Very excited. I've been doing all this stuff, but like, man, that's crushed my schedule, and like throwing that little wrench into that schedule, and I'm struggling now and like keeping up stuff. And so, we can persist for a few months doing what we're doing, but assuming we can keep this economy hobbling along, price increases will probably continue to happen. As we said with Doug, I need help. Otherwise, like things will get missed if the next play set happens or whatever happens, So that's where I'm at. Throwing it out there right now. Clip it. We're going to be getting someone new. I was hoping for early 2022. I'm not against doing it early 2021. I think at this point, if you've listened to us long enough, you kind of know what we're dealing with here. I am a very freedom-minded individual, and that's all I'm going to say about that for the time being. One of our goals with this podcast is probably to not get kicked off YouTube. And that's kind of why I went quiet in a lot of things. Like you look at my personal Twitter, it came to the point where the time for words kind of ended to me. And it's like, all right, this cancel culture nonsense sucks. But we have a channel that we can't have get canceled. Like we have a business here, we have mouths to feed, and there's more mouths than people realize that PricePlow helps feed. And so I wear that heavily. And so during a lot of the nonsense that went down and starting to understand what's really happening, it's like, okay, it's time to separate PricePlow from some of that. And let's just chase what we call the remnant, chase the people out there who can see through that and just want to stay metabolically healthy, like, because that's what it's about. And who want to metabolically healthy or just get fit and everything. And if it takes this pre-workout supplement, which I devastate premium here, if it takes this pre-workout supplement to get you those extra few reps, then I want to be there to push that message to that person who still is getting after it in the gym, even though there's more scaremongering than ever and is going to get worse. That guy who's going to keep showing up. That's who we want to talk to. That's who I want to talk to. Anyway, as you can see, I've had a lot of things to unload, and I don't know if you meant all for all, if you wanted to do that, but that's why we need to have these talks once in a while. Long story short, we need another person eventually on this team. It doesn't need to be urgent, but let's let's start talking to people, and technical writing content is the most important thing, but it's got to be someone who is of like mind, who just like kind of resonated with what I just mentioned. I'm still open to having people move to Texas, even though we don't have an office or anything. I think being in a freedom-minded state is a good idea, Ben. And Texas might not be that state.
I don't think Texas is it anymore. I'm really honest with you.
So yeah, we're happy in Texas for now. I would not be surprised if something goes down in 2022 that causes us to leave. I really do not want to leave where we're at right now. We got our daughter into the best school, and my screen just went blank. Are you still seeing me and everything?
Yep.
Yeah. So it might not be Texas for the time being. It is Texas for us. I am not glued to this state, but I'm happy for the time being. So there's my rant, dude. That was like about a year and a half of me unloading a little bit.
Yeah, I feel it. I think so. On the first the two topics I want to hit on that from my side are the cancel culture impact on PricePlow, because I think that so you're on Twitter. Personally, you don't do a lot of PricePlow on Twitter, but you're personally on Twitter, and you also do a decent amount of YouTube for us. So myself being someone who, like, literally almost every hour of the day, I'm on our Instagram. Like, we, our DMs are constantly moving, our stories are constantly moving. I'm aware of the cancel culture, but I never found that in those networks it was all that. I never found that the stigma or the hard things to talk about, the important things to talk about, were within our scope. Like every here and there, we would get a question about the big C word last year and how we can supplement. And I just wouldn't touch it. I didn't feel that. I feel that, yes, we talk about metabolic syndrome. We talk about a lot of stuff, but the majority of our content is around sports supplements, and the majority of our viewers are sports supplement enthusiasts. And that kind of brings me into the second topic, which is whether I'm bullish or bearish in the supplement market. And in terms of sports supplements, I'm going to make a really controversial statement here. But we talk a lot about the rich getting richer and the poor and the middle class getting poorer. I find the same thing in supplements, right? The brands who are set up for success, the brands who are tied into their supply chain, the brands who are established, the brands that know what they're doing, the brands that treat themselves as businesses and not just scientists that happen to sell products. I think they're going to be successful in the next 5 years. We're talking about the Ghosts, the Cage, the NutriBios, the Glaxons, the people who manage their supply chain, who actually have a P&L sheet for their company, and they don't just order stuff from a contract manufacturer and sell it as fast as possible. The people who manage themselves like businessmen and actually carry themselves well, I'm not worried about them. And I realize that we're in a very advantageous spot. We're lucky with the way that we've set up our business. And I think that one thing that you and I are very transparent about is that we are a business. We're not just a review channel. Like we're transparent about that. And we work with brands that are going to be around long term. I don't feel that we're partnered up with brands that are small time, that don't know what they're doing. I feel that the majority of our partners they know what they're doing. We talk with people, with the Doug Millers, with the Dan Larenkos, with the Mark Leisures that are established, and I'm not really worried for them. I am worried for small businesses. I'm definitely worried for them, and that's why you might see me on our Instagram story trying to help out smaller brands, not doing sponsored content, but if someone wants to send me a box, I will give them a shout out and talk about their formulas, because we care a lot about the underdogs here. And maybe we don't spend 5 hours producing premium content for them, but I do try to help them out where possible. And so I'm not necessarily worried about our part of the industry. Maybe I am worried about some smaller brick and mortars, some smaller wholesale companies that they don't have their shit together, quite frankly. But in terms of bringing on a third, outside of the other mouths that we feed, in terms of bringing on someone else who's a little bit more consumer facing, or might be a writer or something along those lines, I'm not too concerned, because I think that our sect of the industry, the brands that are really put together and that are doing the right thing that we would be working with anyway, I think that we're going to be okay. It's similar to what you were mentioning, the lifters in the gym that are already established, they're going to keep training, they're going to keep purchasing. I think those are the guys that are going to reformat their budget to make sure that they're still training, they're still buying their supplements. Maybe they're not buying as many frivolous secondary supplements. They're not buying their euphorias from Blackstone or anything like that, but they're still taking their proteins. They're still taking their intra workouts. They might be rethinking something, maybe adding in a velocitol so they can use less protein, but they're going to still be committed to their fitness. And I think that our industry is rather safe in that form. And when it really comes down to nitty gritty talking about supply chain, I do think that we're going to stabilize relatively sooner than probably you think. I have a little bit more of a diverse group of people that I've asked for opinions on that, though. I have read Mark Glazier's posts. I have read Bruce Neller's posts. I know that those are on one end of the spectrum, but I also have a crowd of other contract manufacturers that I talk with that are on the other end of the spectrum. I don't think this is going to be easy for everyone, but I do think it's going to stabilize probably by mid 2022. Personally, that's just my thought process.
Right. And that's a long time, especially for a crew like us. But yeah, it seems like if we get there, we're going to be hobbling through 2022. It's just crazy. Like, and I haven't followed this one specifically. So, and I know there's a ton of conspiracy theories around it, but just like a ton of these ships just waiting outside of the docks and everything. Like how many of our supplement ingredients are on those ships, and can we get them? Can we get that creatine back in? Like, so I think here's what irks me in this country. All the brilliant minds in this country, obviously a very American-centric company, brand, channel here and everything, but we're not, we talk to everyone. What irks me is how out of our control our destiny is at this point. Like there are so many factors where we can just get smashed. And that is completely, absolutely unnecessary. Unnecessary. And we need to bring back a lot of the manufacturing back to America. And I'm not just talking about supplements. I'm talking about like, there's just like so much nonsense going on with generic drugs, like your ibuprofen and stuff like that. There's no reason that stuff should be made in India. And I'm cool with the Indians and everything. But at the same time, if I could have a Mark Glazier or NutriBio with third-party lab tests, not NutriBio itself, but like a Mark Glazier type individual in America putting together the Kirkland signature ibuprofen or something, I'd be a lot more comfortable with things. Like we are so reliant on these supply chains, and it's completely unnecessary. And also when you mentioned like, we are a business and we work with a lot of brands, we work with a lot of ingredient suppliers too. So we kind of have that level of information as well. I love working with the ingredient suppliers. I've written about 3 million pre-workouts in my day, but getting word about new ingredients that are coming in or new studies coming in, especially when you're dealing with a New Live Science or NMB Nutrition, who's really pushing some boundaries here on some of their extracts and everything. It's incredibly satisfying to learn about, because a lot of the things that they push are also into the things that I personally believe in terms of the metabolic health. And
I believe that was from our last podcast we did. We announced that we were going to be doing a lot more work with ingredient companies. If I remember correctly, that was one of the last things we said. So it's kind of cool that we really lived up to that.
Yeah, well, and that's true. And the fact is, though, you doing a video on the astragalosides and ginsenosides in estrogen, we should just bring these guys on the podcast. Like, and I know a lot of these researchers are like, oh, well, I'm not well spoken. Like, dude, if you can't talk about your own scientific study, like maybe it shouldn't have been published then. Yeah. I know you're not going to be the most affable person, and we're probably not going to be smacking each other on the back or something like that. But bring the science on, bring the scientist guy on, and we'll ask as many questions. We'll do our best to glue it back down to our listener, who is more on the like early adopter side of things and who wants to hear a little bit of that science. And if you have to pause the video 10 times to look some term up or whatever, then that's okay. I want to bring on some of the scientists for at least some of my personal interviews. And it seems like they're always afraid to do that. I'm like, dude, just come on and explain what you're doing. Like, if we don't get it, we don't get it. It's still like good content to me. And then eventually we make the show notes where we can maybe break it down a little bit better, after the fact. So I want to do that.
I believe what it comes down to, though, is, God forbid one of these guys comes on and they, just because they're the researcher doesn't mean that they're in line with the regulatory team, right? And they may say, okay, extract X, I don't want to put anyone under the bus and say anything specifically, but like extract X does Y and Z, but legally they don't have the studies or the data to make those claims. And so a lot of these guys are a little bit more nervous a really good friend of mine that used to be big at bodybuilding.com now works at a really great milk protein company. And I was trying to invite him on to talk about milk protein isolates, because with whey protein isolate going up in cost so much, hey, maybe here's a new interesting concept that we could talk about a little bit more using instead of whey protein isolate, make it a little bit more friendly to the consumer, because a lot of consumers and formulators and brands follow PricePlow. Maybe we can make a trend, make a shift in the industry. And he's a sales person, and he was worried, obviously, because they have people who carry that kind of stuff with regulatory. They have people who are a little bit more in line with that, but sometimes the best spoken people aren't the researchers or whatever. So I think that in the next year, I think we'll be able to bring a lot of interesting guests onto the podcast. But unfortunately, a lot of it is like we can be so lax and chill with true. And stuff just comes out because we're having a good time, we're joking, it comes out, and then all of a sudden, we've had this. We've had companies call us later on like, hey, in this video you said this. You can't really say that, and we're in a bit of a gray area because we're not the brand, but we're also sometimes sponsored by the brand. So sometimes the claims that we're making, their regulatory department is a little bit worried about. So
yeah, right.
It gets to be a little bit difficult.
Okay, you're bringing me back to earth. I agree, but that's I think the best combination then is to bring the researcher on with the marketing guy and schedule it up. And that's what we should try to do.
Like the beginning of the video just starts with a disclaimer, like, hey, these et cetera, like, legalese of basically releasing the liability of the things that we're saying.
Yeah, I don't know if that stands, but also I'm not against post editing. Like, I know a lot of people want to see a live rip and rah, but we got to be at least somewhat professional. If the researcher, and sometimes researcher just says a wrong fact, like it happens. He's not going to be the most all-knowing person about every single thing in the world. And if they don't 100%. Want to sound bad, it's like, okay, we could edit that at the 5-minute mark, just a quick cut. I'm not against that. So that's cool. You mentioned milk protein isolate. I just actually mentioned, I recorded the PE Science pumpkin pie video yesterday. Oh my God, dude, this flavor, it'll be sold out by the time we get this video up. But I mentioned in that video, every PE Science video I do, I'm like, why don't we see more milk protein isolate? I love this stuff. So yeah, there's definitely workarounds, but at the same time, like if you have core ISO, you're not going to just switch from whey isolate to milk protein isolate. That'll throw everyone off. So we're probably going to see different products being made. And I think Doug kind of touched upon that. If he were to make his pre-workout, if you were to make Boom again, it might not have 5 grams of creatine monohydrate in it, but it is what it is at this point, and I love that stuff, so I'm happy it does. But so yeah, we'll definitely be seeing a shift as we work around this. But that's what's cool about the having these small businesses and the free market and the ability to adapt. And like we have a lot of nimble companies in this industry who can turn not on a dime, but not necessarily like a semi truck either. So you have a little bit of that. Whereas, with an iovate, it might be a little bit harder for them to be able to do those kinds of things. The brands that we work with, I think, are in the perfect zone where like they can, but they're big enough to like really get their message out there. So. Yeah,
absolutely. So with all of that being said, in the last year, a little bit like more positive things, like what are some of your favorite things that we've seen in the last year?
Oh, good question. Well, honestly, some of the pre-workouts have really spoken to me well. Now, here's my deal. Like I go back and forth on pre-workouts right now. A lot of times I'm anti-beta alanine, get tired of it. Right now I'm pro-beta alanine. And, but I like to have, I'm not doing well with alpha yohimbine again. So the Doug Miller pre-workouts are doing really well for me, especially Boom. I'm loving the RTDs and energy drinks that are coming out. Ghost Energy is good and everything, but Primeval Labs is their ape shit RTD. That's going to get us in trouble on YouTube, isn't it? They do not like the ape shit.
I'll see if I can remember to bleep you out.
I don't know. It's hilarious. Of all the videos YouTube complains about, Primeval Labs, they get it. Anyway, I like the RTDs. I'm huge on. I'm very, very excited that NMB Nutrition's Mito Prime is finally out, and it's not insanely expensive. Yeah. The more I get into like researching a lot of this stuff, the more I realize that organ meats and mushrooms has so much in them, and this ergothioneine amino acid. It's like this super duper antioxidant candidate vitamin that our body has transporters for us. This fascinating ingredient is found in both, and we don't get enough of it. And it's got like so many just crazy benefits. And so I'm excited about that. I am a huge fan of Synactive, like getting those 200 milligram bottles that they sent, that stuff. And like, that's why I get why Dan's got it and like everything in his stack. Like there's something about swimming with Synactive where I'm not going to compare it to stimulants of old, but there's that, oh my, I don't have to breathe as much. Like there's something to it. So excited about
lowered RPE in the most recent study was a significant thing. I've brought this up a couple times, just even the 50 milligrams in Legend pre-workout, because I'm used to taking it post-workout. The 50 milligrams of it in Legend, it seems to just lower the amount of effort required to move certain weights.
It's hilarious. It really is. Like I'm literally not breathing as much. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Unbound was obviously a super fun launch. I'm sorry, I can't handle Unload. It is off the wall, super awesome pre. It's just got a little too much for me. So
that's what it was supposed to be, though. Right?
What's that?
That's what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, I guess I'm getting out of the demographic. Like, I'm aging out, which is sad, but it's true and everything.
I'm heavily curious to know that this is so for everyone to know, it's September 28th, and I'm currently on a caffeine detox, and I'm going nuts by myself in this condo. But I was wondering the other day how Unload would feel without caffeine, because the rest of those quote unquote stimulants in there, I'm not aware of any of them increasing heart rate or blood pressure. So I'm wondering if you'd be able to get a similar stimulant effect without the actual caffeine problems. And that's a high caffeine product. I think it was a yield of around 4 to 450. Somewhere around there. But that was supposed to be an insane pre-workout. You know, when we had that, when Mark brought the idea to us, it was wish list pre-workout, you know, all mood and focus, crazy, but without the DMAA of old, obviously.
Right. And so, real fun launch. I was going to mention, I might have to throw it back to you. What?
So I'm kind of going through our YouTube right now, just kind of because my memory span is like 3 months when it comes to this stuff, because we're producing how many pieces of content a week, like 5 pieces, right? Yeah. And it's like, no matter what I say right now, someone's going to comment and be like, why didn't you say Mar Brand, you know? But there's been so much this year. Looking at our YouTube, how many collabs did Ghost come out with this year? You got the CG, the Ali Bessie, you got the Oreo, obviously, you got the new Sour Patch Kids. That was a huge thing this year. They relaunched their Legend, all their sports actually. AP Sports Regiment has been really growing. Not a lot of new SKUs yet, but they have some stuff coming from there. Primeval has been making a comeback this year, which has been kind of crazy. I think the last quarter of this year is going to be really, really big for them. But even up to now, that ape shit RTD, I'll say it again. Dude. I'll go bleep that out.
I don't know if you need to worry about it. How much are we going to worry? Who cares? If YouTube, I just don't want to get kicked off YouTube. Yeah. If YouTube demonetizes us, So then that's it. I just they're like, be careful. The last few times your video, you said it was safe and it wasn't. And so I'm like, sorry, like.
So Axe and Sludge had their 2 collabs this year too, right? Icy and Dippin' Dots. That Dippin' Dot video I did was one of our viral videos of the year for sure. Cage did their Omega-3, which was one of the most wildly successful like commodity product launches I've ever seen.
Yeah, I was going to mention, I was looking up at my shelf there. Caged is one that's quietly ripping things up right now. Like, okay, the probiotic, after writing that article, I was like, dude, I need a bottle of this. Like, it was fascinating stuff. And then that omega-3, so my biggest rant in the world is that I hate omega-6 fatty acids. And if you start looking at a lot of the fish oils out there, like, dude, you're not going to improve your omega-3 to omega-6 ratio that much because there's too much omega-6 in them. Brian Randed Cage knows this, put out this omega-3, and these capsules are huge. It's like 1 gram of omega-3, and it's not yellow. It's like clear almost. And so huge on that. Hydrocharged Amped, I don't think we've given a ton of credit to, but when I was working out in the yard, and dude, we had a pretty hot month here in Texas. It's been hotter, but we had a hot month. I need a little bit of energy, need to stay hydrated. Hydrocharged Amp, it was there. And I kept going through those little baggies, and I don't have many like single serving little stick packs. So that was the one I traveled with too. We went to Houston, and again, it was hot. So Cage Muscle, keep an eye on Cage Muscle is what I'm going to say. they're quietly doing all these things, and I keep quietly using a lot of their stuff. So been excited about them. We haven't mentioned Glaxon yet, and
I just saw that. So I'm scrolling through.
I think
Wonder Collagen.
I've never been a huge collagen user because I eat a lot of meat off the bone, but lately I haven't been having as much meat off the bone. So I was very excited about Wonder Collagen. Cinnamon roll tasted really good, but it's like one of those ingredients where like, okay, we got this collagen. We got to do everything we can to make that ingredient as good as possible. And so like adding all these extra amplifiers, including a new ingredient that has some pretty unique research in it. And inside of that ingredient are some constituents that I was very excited to see that kind of have to do with my immunity stack, which I am willing to share about immunity, by the way, because this winter, I think everyone needs to be safe. If it's never too late to get metabolically healthy, but still there are still tons of things you can do.
Right. What's funny thing, while we're on the topic of Glaxon, some of our best videos of Glaxon right now are for products that have not released yet, but there is so much hype around them. Like the Goon video I did, like 4 things you need to know about Goon that's coming. Like everyone is constantly asking me about Goon, and I'm sitting over here drinking an unlabeled tub of it because I literally called Michael like, I need more of this.
How much caffeine is in
75 milligrams.
Okay.
But it's got
you're out of Cetox. I am not. I might be next for the Cetox, but
again, like going back to the collagen thing, Joey does this like feedback loop idea with everything. It's in their Tranquility, it's in their Goon, it's in their collagen, like all these products where he blocks certain things to get rid of stuff or blocks stuff that is active in getting rid of the constituent, as well as creating a better environment for it to live and be bioavailable. Obviously, I'm speaking very broadly here, but he always finds these ways to make, say, caffeine in this case, or GABA in the Tranquility, or collagen more powerful when it's in your body, which I think is cool.
And you were mentioning, if I could have like unload but take out the caffeine, one ingredient that I'm excited about in there is obviously the Rhodiola Prime. Like when I used to do caffeine detoxes, which was pre-child, Rhodiola was the ingredient that I would go with. So a Rhodiola Prime 6X style celidracide based rhodiola extract would be my go-to. I don't know what they have in that Cetox, but that's one thing that I would definitely do. But Ben sent me a message, everyone, yesterday, and he's like, dude, I need caffeine. What do I do? I was like, I don't ask Glaxon. They did this to you. They're making you detox. So it sounds like you seem like you're doing pretty good today. I wouldn't have noticed.
So we'll be really transparent how this works. Actually, I have them right here. So they come with a red pill and a blue pill. And yes, they'll be leaning into that marketing of what you're all thinking right now.
All blue pills.
Yeah. So you start with 6 red pills, and then you do 5 red pills and 1 blue pill, and then 4 red pills and 2 blue pills, or whatever it is, and it slowly slides across until you're taking all blue pills. They're basically the same pill, but one has caffeine and the other one doesn't, so you're slowly weaning yourself off of it. Yesterday, I was at the 3 and 3 mark, which is the halfway mark, and it was terrible. Yesterday was the worst day for sure. Today's not bad, but one thing I've noticed is I've been sleeping considerably better each day because I'm not taking caffeine late in the day. So that's been pretty cool. And so, yeah, the worst part of this whole thing is they sent me this box and I'm expecting Goon and this other ingredient that I can't talk about yet, but these 2 products that I'm really excited about that are both stimulants. And what shows up with the box, a stimulant detox. And they're like, you got to do this first. So it's like, I'm sitting here looking at all these beautiful stimulants while I'm like withdrawing on my couch pretty much. So yeah, I'm actually doing pretty well right now.
That's good. Yeah. You seem like it. Performax Labs rebrand, very exciting stuff. The Hypermax formula looks ass kicking, dude. So
it's awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
Aaron was like, you might want to take 1 scoop for this first time. And I was like, I went 2 scoops. Like halfway through, I'm texting Aaron like, this is not okay. Like,
dude, I'm telling you, man, see a product like that to me though, I don't think alpha yohimbine is completely necessary at that dose, but man, it's what sells. It's what the kids love and everything. Even Ghosts has bumped their number up and everything. So aging out of the demographic could be my thing, but at the same time, it's extreme. The word extreme is on the tub. So
See, sometimes I feel like I'm like the uncool kid, like the kid that's like asking the teacher if we have homework tonight, because I'm the one. I think we are the one content provider, and I'm even a little bit more crazy on this than you are. That's like your ingredients aren't compliant. I'm big on compliance, and so when Primeval or when Performax sent this over and it's a compliant label, I was like, I'm going to go full 2 scoops, and I'm seeing my age in this one. I'm 29, and I was like, and I'm not 21 anymore. But speaking of compliance and stuff, this year 2021 the FDA slapped First Form with a warning letter. Like, how wild of a realization was that? They're not going after the people stacking Ariadrensis with Juglans and Hordenine and N-methyltyramine. They're going after a brand that they did have Hordenine in their pre-workout and their fat burner, but they also just had I think it was cardiovascular claims on their Omega, like not a crazy thing, obviously an illegal thing, but they're showing that people are not too big to fail.
No, but yeah, First Form is obviously a bigger fish, but at the same time, like there's no transparency in how it's working. It's just like anything else in the government. It's a mess, and it's not working for the people, in my opinion. But a lot of small brands will fly under the radar, and you might get whacked, and there might be a big whacking at some point. There's a lot of gambling that goes on in it. I don't want to partake in any of that kind of gambling, but it's I don't even have words to say what I have to say. It's just like, it's a mess. If you play around, you might get screwed. But there are plenty of small brands that are flying under the radar. At the same time, a lot of the ingredients, they don't seem to be that busy. Like, I think a lot of their stuff is staying away from claims regarding the virus hysteria, which I think is probably a good thing. Yes. In terms of various things. And then CBD is probably eating up a lot of that team's a lot, all the cannabinoids and everything have taken up a lot of that team's bandwidth. I don't think their current battle right now is worrying about someone that has a flower extract labeled as a stimulant in the pre-workout that's being sold to 2,000 people. Like, right. And whatever that number is, that's not priority number one right now. And so I think that's going to give some people, hey, a little bit of the balls to fly under the radar. If you do that, good luck. Probably not going to want to cover you too heavily on the channel, but at the same time, don't be surprised you get whacked. So yeah. I'm
not covering anyone that's breaking the law, especially like as things as egregious as saying that your DMHA is a Juglans or something like that. I just personally I think it's a losing move, and like you kind of said, maybe
you don't think they're squeezing black walnuts real hard.
I don't.
The Juglans.
I don't think so.
Like 2 amino 5 out of there.
I don't think they're even going as far as to test the fucking formula. Personally, I think if you want to make me believe that you're using this crazy extract system, but you're not even testing the purity of your products. I know where these things are being made, and I don't know. To me, I'm personally not touching it, and I think you made a really good point. Like, a lot of these brands think they're untouchable, but the truth is, you're like a 1/100th of the size of First Form, and FDA is going to go after the biggest fish. They're going to try to shoot a warning shot by slapping Andy Frisella with a big lawsuit or whatever, with a warning letter, and hoping that tells the little guys like, hey, you should probably chill out.
Not legal advice, but yeah. Agreed. I don't know. I do the right thing. Like, I think brands like, okay, Glaxon. Not everyone can formulate like Glaxon, but sure. Brands like Ghost have shown that there is a way of marketing that you don't need to do absurd, ridiculous stuff. Like, if you and your gym bros want to have a crazy pre-workout, you can make that yourself. But like, if you want to make this into a real working functional business, it comes down to like just being the marketing, being authentic, and whatever that is. Find your remnant, find your people. And Ben's people are definitely different than Mike's people, for sure. But you find your people and sell to them something that will improve what they want. You don't need to put in 900 milligrams of caffeine or whatever Juglans fake nonsense, synthetic nonsense you need to do. But if you like Juglans, I tend to crash load too hard on the 2 amino 5 stimulant. But if you do like that stuff, I'm not against you having like a little bit of a small, couple capsules for you and your buddies. I don't think that's a business model. Like, why are we wasting our time?
Listen, I mean, I could not agree more. Hey, remember our first podcast? I don't know if it was your first podcast, but at the Arnold, like 5 years ago, it was you, me, CJ, and Dan Margolis.
Dan and CJ were, that was fun.
They were fighting about beta alanine for a little bit. I said on that video, and that was I think that was before they slapped the big DMAA ban. But I said my opinion back then, I had strong opinions back then even, was that DMAA is not a dietary supplement. And it's totally okay if you want to go get capsules of it. I'm totally fine with that. I'm fine with you want to go get some Superdrol to grow a little bit. You go get some PEDs or whatever. Like, I don't really care, but don't market it as a dietary ingredient. That's my thing, right? Like, if you want to go to a research chemicals company and order some DMHA, some DMAA, and it's actually pure DMAA, it's not some lie about geranium or whatever, I totally think that's fine. Go get that. But when brands start to market DMHA, especially when it goes into these small brick and mortar stores and there are like 16-year-olds buying it, I have a big problem with that. I think and I believe in Darwinism and all this stuff. I think that people who don't think for themselves are probably going to hurt themselves, and I hope they learn from it. But I don't think that we should be putting kids in a position to take stuff that could be potentially harmful to their health.
Yeah, I do agree. Do you see any other regulatory issues arising in the coming times? Like, one concern, I don't know if I brought it up with Doug or whatever, but like one concern with protein prices increasing is that spiking might come back, and maybe like spiking 2.0, some sort of new version of that. So we have to be on top of that. Do you have like any other concerns? But overall, I'm not really worried about stimulants. I do. I think we've been through that and over that. And I do still believe that DMAA was a constituent in certain geraniums, but not to the degree they're going to be able to extract it out. I don't know. Iovate has this one crazy patent somewhere up in Canada, but I don't think to a degree that you'd probably be able to extract it out. That did turn out to be a business play for a lot of people. But long run, it's gone. The appeals courts have, they made their statement. I stuck with that. And that was, I said that's what I said I was going to do. That's what I did, so no more of that. Now, do I have a little bit in this house? Of course I do, but that's my personal, old stash from a long time ago and everything. And I honestly don't dip into it that often. I kind of forget about it and everything. So we've kind of moved on. There's certain combinations of ingredients that kind of give you that good feeling. But I actually right now on Corazon, they have Bacopa in here. And Bacopa is one of the ingredients that gives me a little bit of that euphoric
feel good edge.
Yeah.
I don't really see any big regulatory things coming up right now. I heard something interesting about nutrition fact panels versus supplement fact panels with protein. That was changed in 2021, which I wasn't aware of. I actually made a mental note to call Glazier about that, and I haven't. But I don't consider that to be a big deal. And I think to your point about whether or not stimulants are a big deal, I don't think they're a big deal. I personally get involved in the conversation quite often because people are tagging me and stuff and asking me about it. So then I have to voice my opinion. But I think that when you look at who's doing well right now, you look at the trajectory of like who people are talking about, who is the buzz, who's the talk of the town, who's doing well. There's no brands using this stuff that we like see in respectable amounts. Like, they're finding their way into brick and mortar stores, but they're not a GNC. They're not killing it on Amazon. They're no sizable companies that are breaking the law in this way. And I think that, like you said, Ghost has kind of showed us that it's possible to make a brand that is highly profitable, highly interesting to young people, and also effective while using compliant formulas, while having little to no claims. And the claims that they do have are all legal and backed. And when we're on the topic, Dan often says this notion of like whether or not people deserve to have a brand, and he always kind of cites other countries where it's hard. There's a harder barrier of entry to get in. Like Canada is really difficult to get in for a lot of stuff. Getting NPNs signed for different ingredients and stuff, it's a lot more difficult than in America, where you can get a 28 bottle run to sell at your gym to a couple friends. And while I don't always agree with him on that, when it comes to some of this stuff where you have people making claims on bottles that they don't even know are illegal, or putting in ingredients that are just not legal and they don't know it, or they know it and they're doing it anyway. There are so many different circumstances with new brands breaking the law or just doing irresponsible or unethical things that every here and there I tend to agree with him that I don't think everyone should be able to own a supplement company. Because another analogy that I've gotten from Glacier is we're not selling paint for your bathroom. This is going in your body. It's chemically changing the way that your body works. And I think that there's a certain amount of responsibility to that. But in terms of regulatory affairs, I think that the whole stimulant topic is way smaller than I make it out to be personally. I think it's just a personal vendetta of mine.
Yeah, it's also just the things we've covered. Listen, folks, you're never going to ever hear me ask for government regulation of anything.
Yeah.
Like if you hadn't figured it out over your course of your lifetime, these last couple of years have should have completely proven that they're incapable of doing anything right. And I mean anything, literally anything. So no, you're not going to hear me asking for it. But at the same time, we are a channel where we do live in this world. And while this world has still not fallen apart to a complete degree, yeah, we're gonna comment on this stuff. And like, we do want everyone playing by similar rules in terms of the good guys doing the right thing. Then I think everyone should try to live up to that. And if not, then we need to at least voice like, okay, here's where there's a difference. And so yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. But yeah, you're not going to ask me ever to want Canada's anything. Except for maybe like some of the. We'll take a few of their nicer people who
their transparency laws. They have laws on transparency, which I'm a fan of.
Yeah,
I
do like that though. Okay.
But what I don't know. I'm very neutral on a lot of these things. I'm very chaotic neutral on a lot of this, but they have some things that make sense in a world where the government actually can make sense, right? Like where like they have general upper limits on ingredients. And if you want to go above that upper limit, you have to be able to open an NPN with them and prove that there is safety data for this new dosage, which we have grass here, which is a similar kind of idea. It doesn't prevent you from selling a product, but it is a higher level of safety for consumers. I think it's worth the conversation. And if viewers right now or listeners are curious to learn a little bit more about what we're talking about in a depth that you and I are not going to get into, the PricePlow Authority report that we did a couple months ago, Joey Savage, Tim Gritzman, and Kenton Engel went ridiculously in depth on how DSHEA works and how the ODSP enforces that. At levels that I didn't even really know. So if you want to learn a little bit more about what we're talking about, there's a really big deep dive on our channel there. And I believe that's on our audio feed as well.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, one ingredient I think everyone should keep an eye on and have plenty of in the house personally is NAC. You want to talk about the regulatory parts on that? What's that?
You want to talk about the regulatory parts on NAC last year?
So I don't even know if, man, by the definition of dietary supplement, yeah, it may be a challenge. There comes to a point where an ingredient is so beneficial and so healthy. I think you should have some in your house, regardless of what Amazon or the FDA may or may not say or do, because it's part of my immunity stack. So I could tear through that stack because I'd like to do that. But I would not be surprised if you see NAC get smashed and crazy things happen. This is just coming from me from the bearish standpoint. And if it did, I know that I at least have a bunch in the house. so I know, but I would tell everyone else, like, get some of this stuff just in case.
I definitely think everyone should keep it on hand. If not injectable glutathione, if you are cool with some needles, I would recommend injectable glutathione first. But we know that NAC works better than oral glutathione, unless possibly I know you have a problem with Cetria. Some people argue that's a little bit better, but I don't think that it's going to get smashed for a couple of reasons. So first, the warning letter that went out about NAC was not from the Office of Dietary Supplements, the ODSP. It was from it was different because it was about the claims. Someone was making hangover claims on NAC.
Federal Trade Commission.
It might have been the FTC. Okay. It was an FDA warning letter though, so I'm not 100%. I learned that one from I think NPI, but because there's a very large group of people, I think from the Natural Products Organization, NPA, I'm sorry, going after the FDA for answers on this. But basically what happened was they delivered these warning letters on you can't use NAC for hangover or any sort of drug disease claim, which we know, right? Like even when we're writing our articles or doing our videos, we're not making drug disease claims. We may mention that there's data on that. We may mention that there's a study on that, but we're not making claims on it.
And the hangover stuff, it's mouse data. And by the way, I barely drink anymore, but I used to use NAC before and after.
Yeah. And so these brands were making claims on this. They were saying you can use it and it does this, and that's you just can't do that. So they got slapped with the warning letter. And in the warning letter, it basically said, by the way, when looking at NAC as a dietary ingredient, it does not initially look like this is actually even a legal dietary ingredient. They didn't say that it's banned. They didn't say anything. They didn't crack down. And this was in, I believe, April of 2020. Like this is like well over a year ago that they brought this down. And the FDA has done nothing since then. What did happen was there was a decent amount of turnover at the regulatory department in Amazon. And when they came in, the new department said, we got to be a little bit harsher on this. And to be fair, Amazon was selling a decent amount of non-dietary ingredients on their website, and they wanted to crack it up. I mean, like it's Amazon; they got to have their shit cleaned up. So they banned all NAC from the site as per this warning letter, which they had the right to do. It's their site; they can do whatever they want. Mm-hmm. And then a lot of other companies followed suit because Amazon is like the standard for a lot of regulatory departments. Mm-hmm. As of right now, though, the FDA has not had any further action on it, and I feel like at this point, it's been like close to 18 months. I don't think it's coming. Okay.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. I'm in it for the ride.
Other stuff can happen. Who even knows? But that's one that I would keep an eye on. And if it does happen, you better buy it fast. That's in my immunity stack personally. 600 milligrams a day. If getting sick, I would double it. I want to get it out because I've already mentioned it twice. Okay. First off, you got to start with the zinc. We typically deal with two very good forms of zinc. You have OptiZinc, which is methionine bound, or you have and like Revive MD. I have a big article on that. Revive MD zinc is the OptiZinc methionine bound, or the zinc bisglycinate, which is glycine bound. So my third form of zinc would be zinc picolinate, probably. But so those zinc. 25 to 50 milligrams a day. You got to start with that. Second, zinc ionophore. You could use green tea extract or drink some green tea. I personally like quercetin. So 500 milligrams of quercetin a day, double it if getting sick. That's what I am doing right there. Now, the one ingredient, and I think most people know about that. There's a lot of research on this stuff. Like we're well into that. The one ingredient that I think is not getting enough attention with respect to immunity is olive leaf extract. And so this is it can help prevent ACE2 docking. And I'm a huge proponent of the olive leaf extract. So I add that in. My next one on top of that would be NAC. And then we can start getting into some crazy auxiliary stuff where, you start going down the rabbit hole. I might be missing one other thing that I'll probably pop in. I always like curcumin. I'm a big fan of that. And that's just healthy in general. Berberine has a lot of benefits, and that the primary benefits to me are the metabolic benefits. Yeah. We've talked about it on this channel ad nauseum. Dihydroberberine or glucovantage is just a fantastic ingredient. And so then there's one other ingredient part of my stack that I'm gonna have to pop in later. But those are the main ones. But for me, the olive leaf extract, and then of course, vitamin D and vitamin C. So the quercetin I take has vitamin C in there already. And for vitamin and get sunshine, don't eat the seed oils. That's where I'm at. And so I do believe that supplements can be very, very, very beneficial, but let's try not to put lipstick on a pig. We've had 18, 19 months to get metabolically healthy. We've known all along that metabolic health is the superior way. And that's where I kind of lost faith in a lot of humanity, is like, no one bothered to get healthy. And I'm not here to talk to those people anymore. I don't care. Like, if you haven't lost a single pound since then, and I'm talking about the obese and overweight people. If you haven't lost a single pound since then, and you have no legitimate plan to get help and do so, I no longer have anything to say in terms of health to you. Go and do your thing. Enjoy. Go to Dunkin' Donuts. Enjoy. But I do think that there's a message to be said to the remnant, to the rest of the people. And there are ingredients that can help. And I do have concerns about one of those ingredients, NAC, may get smashed. So that's all I'm saying, is that get a little bit of that in the house. Who knows? But yeah, and then sunshine. I know I look a little bit more aged when I have a little bit of a sunshine on my face. Don't care. Love it. Feel good every time I'm like outside. I know in Texas, it's going to be hot. Like what I realized a few years ago is I just said to myself, embrace the sweat. You're going to sweat. Just get outside in the sun. Who cares? But I swim in an outdoor pool, so that's nice.
Yeah.
A little bit later. So yeah, that's my rant, getting back to that. But yeah, I do have a little bit of concerns about the NAC getting hit. Hopefully not.
Just one of the reasons I don't talk about it much is I don't think our community, I don't think we have metabolically unfit people in our community,
Right.
Obviously a couple of us bulk a little bit too much in the winter for here and there, but I'm trying to keep my cardio every day for this winter so I don't get there. But it's, to me, I mean, having surveyed and I always look at the profiles of people that are DMing us just to see kind of who our people are. Even if they're a little bit older, they're still active. They're doing the things that they can. But for the majority of our community are young people who are excited about this stuff.
Yeah.
Did you happen to look at Glaxon's immunity product in the last year?
Yeah, I have a bottle sitting right over there.
That was one that I found really interesting, with the little viruses that kill bacteria and create a probiotic out of them. Or
yeah, they have some lactoferrin in there as well, which I think is that kind of went out of style. Isotori BioGrow, I think, literally killed a colostrum for the sports nutrition sector. But because of these are videos that we made like a long time ago, but colostrum and lactoferrin are fantastic, awesome compounds. And they may not be like they're not steroids or anything, like whatever they're being marketed as, but they're incredible compounds. And so it's cool to see lactoferrin in a supplement like Curcumin from Glaxon.
I think we need to stop with the muscle builder studies and stuff. I think if we haven't found it yet, we know it works. You go to your doctor. I don't think that anything that is naturally occurring in a food is going to work the way that you think it's going to work. The Isotori BioGrow put, I think, a bit of a black eye on the industry in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, and then they sold and bailed and everything, which whatever, all power to them. At least it wasn't like a zero benefit type of ingredient, because I do believe
I think there were benefits, but the muscle growth was not one of them.
Yeah, agreed. Oh well. Yeah, that's it. I'm trying to think. I feel like we're missing some stuff. I'm excited to see some inspired stuff. I already showed Devastate.
So yeah, that was what I wanted to talk on.
I love Chris Waldrum.
Yes.
What's up, Chris? If you're listening, I think he's a believer. I think we both have daughters that are similar ages and stuff. So I've been a fan of the guy since a long time ago, 2014 maybe.
Yeah, and he's one of the next guests that we have coming up for the start of the podcast. So we
recently had him. Bring him back on.
Next week I'm planning on it. We're going to talk a little. I think the conversation is going to be very similar to what we talked about today with him. He's very he's along the same brainwaves as you and me.
I think here's the thing: is a lot of us are in the dietary supplement industry, because this is an industry where we are chasing some level of health. And I use health in terms of, it could be you bench pressing 600 pounds too, but we're chasing something like that. So you're already outside of the norm, and then you also have this industry that has a very laissez-faire, freedom, libertarian-esque aspect to it, and we're on the fringes. What kind of has happened though is that the fringes of the dietary supplement industry, supplements have become mainstream, and so some of us are like, okay, do we act mainstream now? No, we don't totally need to. But at the same time, there's going to be a lot more mainstream people that are viewing some of these channels and everything. So
I think a lot of the reason that so many people are along the same brainwaves is because with this kind of industry, you're getting in this, you have personal responsibility. No one's going to take these supplements for you. No one's going to lift that weight for you. No one's going to make you get up and go train. You can buy all this stuff, but if you don't get up and do it, nothing's going to happen. And so the entrepreneurs that are leading that charge are are like probably the pinnacle of that. I mean, maybe they're not super fit, but they understand personal responsibility. They understand, the autonomy of oneself. And Chris is definitely an extreme of that, which I love him for. Yeah, one of the first topics he wants to talk about is aliens on the next podcast. So,
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that could be something where the topic that we could get into is what topics is there anything like super taboo, or like, do we care? Like, to me, the podcasts I listen to, they do venture off a little bit. Yeah. I don't want to turn into the alien podcast or whatever.
But
I don't have that big of strong opinions on it.
I think that when you bring on a guest, whatever they're passionate about. Last time I podcasted with them, the only thing I asked was to not let us get canceled, because I know you're not on Instagram a lot. Chris is not afraid. Chris is not afraid at all. He'll pull up the news on his story and just rip people. And I mean, it's hilarious.
We're small enough that we probably won't get canceled. I don't want the YouTube channel to get deleted, but we could always like post at it if we think things get a little bit too crazy. The audio feeds are purposefully, this is why we're still not on Spotify, and eventually I might change that, but the audio feeds were always meant from a freedom aspect. These MP3s are found on blog.priceplow.com. Like, we host this ourselves, and I will never let my files be hosted somewhere else if there's a chance that they'd be canceled. There's been
what if it's
the files are going to be found?
Like, what if it's hosted on PricePlow, but it's also hosted on Spotify? Is that against your thought process?
No, not at all. It's just Spotify,
as long as you have the original.
They have tougher tools to get through into them, and one way of doing it with the software we use is to go through someone else's server. Won't do it. So at some point we'll grow to the point where we can't get in.
That was a problem for Rogan early on. That was a problem for Rogan early on when he got that Spotify deal. They went through and got rid of a couple episodes. I mean, he's got thousands of episodes, but people started to realize that some of these older ones were missing. And they were obviously like I think one of them had to do with, that was us, that we had the brain cancer episode that was missing.
I did that myself. I took it off YouTube.
Okay. There was some stuff missing from his channel, and internally employees were like petitioning to get rid of some of his stuff.
One of them and I tried right after it happened. I tried to find archives, to try to find backups, and failed. It was Sean Baker's original carnivore episode. Yeah. That to me is concerning. Like, they're coming for as I tell you, over the next 10 years, they're coming for our meat, and we better be ready to fight. It's going to start with the meat tax, and they're going to be coming after the meat one way or another. And that is, to me, a very, very, very concerning thing. And just like seeing these nut jobs take down a Sean Baker episode, which was a very influential episode, but he got his word out, obviously. That to me was preposterous. And right then and there made me kind of ashamed to be a Spotify user, even though I use Spotify for music.
What bothered me about it, because look, I'm one of the things I like about Rogan is he'll bring on Trump and he'll bring on Sanders. Like he plays both sides, and he's a very great host. And we all know what way Joe leans, but he will give a fair interview to anyone that comes on. Right? I like that a lot about him. He would ask the same hard questions of both sides, and he's had vegans on just like he's had Baker on. And so I didn't Sean. I'm trying to be fair here. Didn't Sean lose his medical license because of some of the claims he was making and stuff? Like there was some controversy.
It was not meat based or whatever. Okay. It was earlier on, and he ended up getting it back. I don't even know his status now. Right now, he's been going viral a lot. What he does is he just sit there eating a huge ribeye while watching these crazy psycho vegan people doing their thing, or banana fruitarians doing their thing. And he's sitting there eating a ribeye, and people love this shit. I honestly don't know what's so funny about it. Like I'm getting old for this. Like the whole TikTok generation of me making a reaction video, a video of me watching someone else doing something. I don't know. Like, that's just too meta for me. Like,
reaction videos are really big right now.
Yeah, I could care less. I personally thrive on information, and that is of zero value, zero information. There's just no merit to a video like that, but whatever. If to me, it's just divisive, and I'm fine with like dividing and stuff, but I guess maybe not as much.
Here was my interpretation of it. Remember my Omega reaction video I did for Caged? Or I didn't do it for them. I did it to them. They did not sponsor that. because I agree with you. I don't like if it's just a reaction. I can react myself. I'm going to watch the video. I'm going to have my reaction. Unless it's really fucking funny, I don't care what your reaction is. Unless you like snort your drink out your nose. Like I don't care. So I watch the video and I would pause it regularly and offer like our side. Because Cage has a lot of great information, but so every here and there I would offer like a devil's advocate or explain what Chris is talking about or something. And I think that someone like Sean Baker could do a good job with that. But my problem with the Rogan thing was they would give all the time in the day to both sides. But if they were to say like, hey, during this episode, Sean made some claims that fact checkers, independent fact checkers later on found weren't really backed by any data, and there was some sort of disclaimer, and they did that for both sides because we all know vegans can do the same thing with cherry picking articles and stuff. I would have been cool with that, right? Like, hey, there was a couple claims in here that didn't actually pan out to be 100% true. Like you said, researchers talking on the spot sometimes misspeak, sometimes cite the wrong evidence or say the wrong thing, but they just went and deleted it instead of being fair to both sides. And yeah, because he also had on who did he have? He had the Game Changer guys on, and he actually had a pretty good debate on that one if I remember correctly, but of course they left that one up. So I'm all for honest information from both sides if it can be done.
It cannot over the next decade.
Well, not when Spotify owns the show.
No, we've degenerated beyond that. It's not supposed to make sense. It's supposed to demoralize you. And so like my wife Jill will come in, she'll be like, and she gets it, but she'll still be surprised about something. It just doesn't make logical sense. I'm like, dude, like this, like it's not supposed to make sense anymore. We're beyond that. So it's sad. I personally see Rogan as a bit of a gatekeeper.
Yeah, and he's
far out there on that. I've listened to literally, but I'll be honest, I've listened to literally one episode since he and it was the one about plastic, so it wasn't a big deal. It was pretty interesting. But I've listened to one episode after the Hotez one in circa March 2020. I was like,
I haven't listened to any since he moved to Spotify.
Yeah, so I've listened to one on Spotify. I wish I could set up my Spotify homepage. Listen, I turn on Spotify, I want to hear heavy metal. That's it. But no, Spotify's got to push their agenda just like everyone else. And that drives me nuts. But whatever, it's not supposed to make sense. It's supposed to demoralize you. So anyway, I've listened to literally one Rogan since the move to Spotify, but it was the Hotez one at the beginning of the hysteria that did it for me. And I love some of the videos. I love some of the rants. There's a freedom rant going around right now by him. I think is like really, really well. Some dude like,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, did a great job and everything. But whatever. He signed his deal and he got his money. I'm not. Obviously,
he got 500 million from it.
Hell yeah! But at the same time, I am not as pro Rogan as most. Let's just say males my age.
You know what the best analogy coming full circle here when we were talking at the beginning about bringing a third person onto the team, who we need a Jamie, the guy that's behind the camera on Rogan.
We need a CIA handler. I think that's what Jamie is. I don't know.
Well, if you go really far back, Jamie was on the show earlier on. Maybe I don't know. Jamie seems a little too innocent to be a CIA handler, in my opinion.
He actually, I don't know. He went to Ohio State when I was there. Actually, he told one story. He jumped in.
But point being, like, I love the character of Jamie because Jamie doesn't need to be Joe Rogan. Like, Jamie's very confident in who he is. He knows what his job is and he has fun with it. And he is a really great supporting role. I think that PricePlow has really two great faces. Obviously, I think that because it's us, but like, there's a lot of holes that could be really filled in by like I watch a lot of Twitch streams and they always have a guy behind the scenes that's making sure that the scenes on the screen are working right. Make sure the live chat is working correctly. That makes sure, hey, there's this really great in the question in the chat. Ben and Mike need to get on this. Like they see things from a bird's eye view, while the Rogan or the streamer, whoever it is, they're in the trenches. Because you and I, like we were mentioning, we've got content every single day. We're writing. We need someone at a bird's eye view. Like, hey, there's this developing story over here that we need to make sure that we're on.
Yeah. And the person doesn't need to be forward facing. They might not want to be at first, and at first they wouldn't be. it could be totally ghost written if it was someone who did, I don't know. A lot of people are losing their jobs right now. And if you're a doctor and you don't want to be associated, you're a doctor, you just got fired for, certain nefarious reasons, and you need, and you really know your supplements though, and you need a job, like that could be someone that works for us. But there are people who, and Kenton talked about this before, the supplement industry is kind of the redheaded stepchild of the pharmaceutical industry. If you didn't want your real name to be out there on our blog, I would not be upset about that. I get it and everything. So if there was someone who wanted to ghostwrite and just do it under my name or just do it under PricePlow staff or something, we easily could do that. So it could be someone hidden behind the scenes. Sometimes we just need stuff done. But at the same time, though, you're right. There's sometimes you can't have three loud voices.
Yeah, I think I don't know. It's hard to hire someone for a brand that is already prolific, that like our faces are already out there, we're already making waves. So you have a person that comes in with the pressure of having to be another face. I think it's too much, and I think having to step up to that. I mean, we're not going to find someone who is on video as much as we are, right? We're not going to find someone who makes as much content as we already do. I think that I was an anomaly because I had the opportunity to be on so much content for NutriBio that I just happened to be comfortable getting in front of a camera every day when I came on. You're not going to find someone who's comfortable doing that, who's comfortable doing social media all the time. And that's why I lean more towards a young person for some reason. But that, I don't know, that analogy to Jamie really stuck out to me, because I think we need someone who can help steer the ship, honestly, who can be like, no, this is the direction that we need to be looking in, but doesn't need to be jumping in front of the camera as well. Like someone who can steer from the back.
Right.
Backseat driver.
Yeah, good point. I don't fully disagree.
Yeah. So last quarter of the year's coming up. We just did our pumpkin pie push. Obviously, we're going to have a lot of pumpkin proteins over the next 2 weeks. Warning for everyone. Outside of protein prices increasing, big things that I'm looking forward to are we're going to have a big Primeval last quarter. I think I want to mention that again. I brought that up before, but I don't think I can give enough love to Primeval. Also, we're 45 minutes into this, so I don't know how many people are going to hear this, but Hypermax Performax has a few products coming out that we're locked into. I'm really excited about that. What are you excited for the last quarter?
I don't know enough. I don't know. To be honest,
I think to be fair, I probably handle most of the looking forward.
Honestly, I don't know. I've been okay, I know Core's got a lot of stuff coming. Core's been keeping us busy, man.
Yeah,
it's Lifeline stuff. Oh wait, is it okay? We haven't yet talked about Chris Bumstead joining the Revive / Raw Nutrition.
That was one I wanted to talk about.
So that's going to happen, and that's going to be probably one of the bigger pushes towards the end of the year. I know Chris is insanely busy. I definitely want to get Dom back on the podcast, if nothing else, and chat about some of that stuff.
While we were having this podcast, Dom and Matt emailed us saying that they're in. I'd love to have Chris in for that if possible, but obviously with the Olympia in 2 weeks, I think that might be a little hard.
Obviously.
I've been able to share one image of the side of the bottle for Chris's new line coming out through Raw. Having seen the rest of it, I'm very excited to see what they're going to be able to do. There was a lot of controversy because we shared, it might have been the way that it was written. I tried to be as transparent as possible, but Chris shared that he was not going to be any longer an athlete with any company, that he was tired of signing deals, and that he would be leaving the athlete part of the industry. And then 2 weeks later comes out announcing that he's the new owner of a company. And a lot of people felt misinformed or felt lied to because he said he wasn't going to be an athlete anymore. But to me, being an athlete and being an owner are two completely different areas. And I think it's a really great step forward in that viewers or fans should be excited, because now Chris has the opportunity to dictate what he wants to bring out and how he wants to address his community. He has a lot more control. I know you weren't super in the discussion on that, but having known what was happening, did you feel like that was dishonest to frame it that way?
Nope. And I think that's the smartest play for every single group involved, really. So I see a lot there. Okay. A lot of these athletes get to the point where they can start their own brand and be a majority owner or even 100% owner. But it's tough to do. And then, but then you also have, what was the guy who was the face of Optimum Nutrition?
Steve Cook.
Steve Cook. I don't even know what he's doing. He ended up opening a gym and he's whatever.
If I was really fun fact about Steve Cook. This is really fun fact about Steve Cook. He is one of the first athlete reviews of Ghost products. They're good friends with Dan and Ryan, and one of the first guys that tried out was Ghost Whey. And like, imagine like the look and the personality of Steve Cook working with Ghost. That would have been incredible.
Yeah, I mean, if I were Optimum Nutrition, I would have offered him an insanely awesome deal of at least some sort of % of. I mean, what has Optimum Nutrition done? They're overseas sales now. Like,
yeah,
I would have done something with Steve Cook to get him some level of revenue share, profit share, or his own brand within that like mega corporation. Yeah, are your profits going to be a little bit less, Glambia? Yeah, but guess what? Your profits are going to be a little bit less if you continue on this trajectory anyway. And so there becomes a point where an athlete is in this stratosphere where they deserve to have part ownership of something. And Bumstead was at that point, and Revive is very, very smart to do exactly what they're doing, in my opinion. We'll see how it plays out. I'm very bullish on everything that Revive has been doing, just because obviously I'm a huge fan of Core Nutritionals and their pre-workouts, but they're coming out with this Lifeline series, right? And who inspired this is Revive MD. So
yeah. I mean, I think everyone wants to say that they've always wanted to do health products, and we all know that Doug is very health minded. He's a natural athlete, lifetime natural. Right? You got to give him all the credit in the world. And whether I don't know if inspiring that is the right word choice, but we definitely know that Revive has made the community more prepped and ready for Healthline. Right?
Yeah, they pioneered. What's the word? They blazed the trail.
They created a community, and they created awareness around health, I think, in a way that no one else has been able to. Could Core have sold a health line 2 years ago? Yeah. But I think now that people are a lot more minded about health, I think it's going to be a lot easier for them to sell that stuff. Mm-hmm. I think your point about like likening CBOM to Steve Cook is a great point. Steve leaving Optimum didn't hurt Steve at all, because Steve has millions of followers and he can make money no matter where, right? He's got probably tons of different passive income. But Glanbia, Optimum Nutrition, is wasting away in Colombia or somewhere, because that's where the demand has gone, right? Yes, there's gold standard in every single GNC in the world. It's still probably the world's best selling protein, but it is probably depreciating in terms of demand. And so why would you let someone like Steve Cook go? Right. Yeah. Like, you could have given him a ridiculous amount of equity in the company just to give then you pretty much don't have to work at all, because you just let Steve sell it, because he's going to feel that he has skin in the game and he has to push it. Right.
Yeah. And to be fair, maybe that was discussed and he decided, I don't know. We don't know him well enough. All I know is that these athletes get to a point where they're no longer, they should be more than an athlete. And sometimes maybe they just want to be an athlete or whatever. But even if Chris Bumstead just wanted to be an athlete, he didn't want to be signing deals with brands left and right and bouncing from one to another next year. And I get that for sure. Like,
the will of other people. We were just talking
older, we want a little bit of stability in our lives. Like, I had a friend who was did TV production, TV shows, show writing, and basically they went through a midlife crisis every like 9 months. The show was over, or it got canceled. Guess what? You're back on the streets pitching your next idea or struggling to try to get on another show. And it's like, that's no way to live a life, like from year to year to year to year. That sucks. So I fully get what he was trying to say. And I don't know, people, if someone's going to get offended, then stop being weak. So
you look at where Chris Bumstead's coming from. He was at Jack Factory, which is an awesome brand. We're big fans of Jack Factory. They do great stuff. We had some good talks with them. We didn't start working with them, but we are big fans and friends of them. But you're talking about Mr. Olympia of classic bodybuilding, or classic physique, who has millions of followers, a ridiculously engaged following, a community that is super positive and interested in Chris. Like, this guy could, sign one of his turds and someone would buy it, but he's signed to an Amazon brand, right? An Amazon brand that they do really, really well on Amazon, but their main goals really aren't an influencer, right? It definitely worked for them. They had Chris Bumstead, but he did two runs of his pre-workout, and I don't know how much I'm supposed to share about that, but I know that they were selling out within minutes. It was right, because however much they're owned by Neutral Holdings, who owns Transparent Labs. However much Jack Factory can order, I'm sure Chris could sell it in no time. So why not go to a brand where you own a lot of it? You can dictate so much more of it. You're not held to any sort of contract like an athlete contract would be, and you have the backing of someone like Dom, who
I was gonna say, this is not a corporation. You know who Dom and Matt are at this point. So
yeah. And you're now linked in with Raw, which has content production teams. They've got Joe Reiser down there doing their video now. You've also got Sean Clarita on the team. You've got Nick Walker on the team. You now have Chris in the gym every single day with other monuments of the industry. It's like a breeding ecosystem for success.
Is something big happening down there? Like, are we going to look back and be, and like, for 3-4 years from now, it's huge down there?
Possibly. So I know you're not big in bodybuilding, but to set this,
I'm saying revive Raw.
Yes,
like that crew.
But I'm gonna link all this. I'm gonna link all this together. You got Matt Jansen at the top. Well, not at the top. We're done. But like, you got Matt Jansen, who took Sean Clarita to Mr. Olympia last year. Nick Walker went pro and then won the Chicago or the New York Pro, and then just this weekend won the Arnold. I think the last person to do that was Lee Haney, which is like decades ago. You got them growing in popularity on social media, just like growing. Then you've also got the rest of their team down there. You have multiple huge bodybuilders that are on the team in the same gym. So on a daily basis, you can make incredible content. You could pull this guy aside and be like, hey, give me 3 tips to grow your triceps any day of the week, right? And it's constantly breeding together. And you know that these platforms, these followings cross-pollinate constantly. So you're growing. And then you have someone, so Matt's like handling this whole bodybuilding side of it. And he's also a great marketer. But then you have Dom, who comes from a very business-minded background. This guy like actually knows how to run a business with a smart mind. He's not pulling money from Raw to pay for Revive. He's not doing all this crazy stuff that you normally see in supplements. He's actually a responsible business owner, which I think is going to give a lot. So I think Chris is just surrounding himself with very successful, very smart people that really aren't going to allow him to fail. I think we're going to look back and see some really big things. Okay.
So we'll mark it right there. We think that crew right there is going to just do nothing but grow and do some awesome, insane things.
Absolutely. 100%.
Okay. Sweet. Cool. What else? I think I'm pretty good to go here. Did you have any other ideas, or what else is coming through the end of the year? We have
we had Psych do a Starburst collab, and they're going to be doing Skittles next.
We got Max Tuning with Ghost coming out.
Yeah.
Core's got Life line. I think
everyone's doing a gut product.
NutriBio is doing some of their pre-workout. I'm not sure if that's this year. Mark Glaser's been teasing stuff on his.
He's been teasing that for a while, but I don't know when that date is. Okay. I know that when I was there, we did talk about that formula, but I don't know when he's going to be bringing that out. But NutriBio is going through a lot of different things. They expanded their shipping like a ridiculous amount this year. They got a huge shipping warehouse that's just for shipping, which obviously offers them more room for their warehousing for ingredients and manufacturing. And Mark's been kind of at the forefront of this whole discussion about supply chain, which has been pretty cool. Switching over his PharmaPure creatine monohydrate, which is their in-house creatine monohydrate, over to CreaPure, because that's the German sourcing, and obviously Chinese sourcing of creatine monohydrate has been tough. So that's been cool. I think that their Unbound line has more legs than it currently is doing. I think that that's going to continue to grow, especially because it just went D2C, so that opens up a lot of channels for them to really go down. I think that their social media on that could really be a hit if they lean into it hard.
Yeah, if you're looking for a natural testosterone booster, sauce.
Yeah,
man, I remember posting the story, like it was maybe 5 days in. I'm like, oh, hello. Like, you start feeling that little libido kick and everything. And I did not do blood work. I haven't done the blood work on testosterone for a little while, but holy crap. Yeah, that's
I think it's some real stuff.
Then is almost, I would need to hook up a glucose monitor and watch myself with Slin, the glucose disposal agent. But yeah, like a lot of people talk about the powdered products, the capsule ones are the ones that to me spoke to me most. And so Slin, I just take a couple of those at least every day, like get a little bit of that dihydroberberine in.
And to their credit, obviously pills pay the bills was a big line for a long time with supplements, but those pills are not the cheap pills that most people are talking about when they mention that line. Those are like heavily formulated products that are not cheap. Like they work, they are packed full. And that's the whole message with Unload, no compromise, but turned up to 12.
Gotcha. Anything else? Any flavors? Any functional foods? We got any
functional foods? AP Regimen's brownies are prime bites, just ridiculous, just insane. We had Hurricane Ida, and my electricity went out. I was sitting here in the dark eating those brownies because I didn't want to open my refrigerator, and I'm just like sitting in the dark, just like, oh my god, this is so good. That was just so funny. There's been so much this year. It's been such a fun bounce back from 2020. Even though I really feel like we trucked straight through 2020, I think that we were really lucky. For all the reasons that we talked about at the beginning of this podcast. 2021's been a big bounce back. CR3 coming from Inspired, the new CR3 version, which we were able to share the formula from. I'm very excited about that. A creatine product that has creatine nitrate included in it is pretty exciting for me.
Yeah, big fan of that ingredient. Yeah, I like how we blogged about the older formula, which I think is awesome, by the way. And then like a day later, they're like, oh, by the way, we're putting out a new one. I'm like, dude.
Yeah, it's well, so the supply chain is so behind. We've been talking about all these Inspired products for a couple months now, and I mean, it's great for the hype, but I felt bad because people were like, I just bought CR3, like, should I return it? I'm like, no, it's gonna be another couple months. Definitely finish your bottle. Which, by the way, I'm really bad at taking creatine. Like, it's just I'm really bad at taking that habitually. I get my beta alanine in because pretty much every pre-workout I take has it, but creatine is hard. I actually took CR3 for 30 days straight, and like a lot of my friends were like, yo, what kind of cycle are you on? I'm like, creatine, like literally.
Dude.
Like that, just that little puff, like it's so nice.
For me, so I have some do they call it Dr. Creatine or DR Creatine? Dr.
Creatine, but it's a play on the Lonza caps of DR.
This is from Glaxon. This is their creatine. It's a creatine monohydrate in the delayed release capsules, which is pretty cool. And so I have some of those in the cabinet, but lately I haven't been taking them because I'm drinking way too much Red, White, and Boom pre-workout, which has creatine in it. Dude, let's talk about caffeine. You've already talked about detox. So I'll start with a cup of coffee, and then I'll start needing more caffeine at 9:30 to 10 a.m. That's when I either do full-on pre-workout or sip on something like whatever, Corazon here. And then I need a little bit afternoon edge. Dude, I'm at 650 milligrams of caffeine a day, which is above the number I want. It's getting away from me. And I've been productive. I've been happy. In earlier podcasts and everything, like, 2020 was a bit more of a more angry year for me. Like right now, I am, as much as I get bearish about things, I am hopeful for those of us who will be left to fight, but I'm hopeful in different ways. But at the same time, so I'm not like down on anything, but I'm just hooked too heavily on caffeine. And it's to the point now where it's like, my daughter wants to go run around in the afternoon. And I'm like, oh man, if it's happening during an afternoon slump, it's like, all right, what do I got here? And so yesterday it was Ghost Gamer, just a couple scoops. Oh, dude, the Swedish fish flavor. You're going to be hard to beat that flavor. I'm with Dad on those flavors. Swedish fish is just so good. But so then I need like that afternoon hit. And I know that last bit of caffeine, the 4 p.m. to 3:30, 4 p.m. Bit of caffeine that I get is definitely going to affect sleep. And I don't wear one of those like Nuva rings or whatever you call it. Is it that's the birth control.
I'm pretty sure Nuva ring goes inside of your vagina. Not
well, I'm not wearing a Nuva ring, but there's the Aura ring. It's an Aura. Yeah, dude. I'm not wearing an Aura ring, but I'm pretty sure that last hit of caffeine that's putting me over like that 650 to 600 milligram dose. I think that's probably affecting sleep. And so then the cycle perpetuates. So might be detox time. Yeah, man. Nuva ring. That's hilarious.
I really want one of these Oura rings while we're on the topic. I've wanted to try one of those for a while. I think it's pretty cool to give you like that kind of data.
Yeah, when I was starting to get into like the biohacking type of stuff, like realizing that if you eat too late at night, your blood sugar is just jacked up the whole next day. Like I love learning that stuff because you really learn like how your body responds to different stimuli and everything. And I still have a chart from, I mentioned this in other videos, remember, I have a chart from when I got on an argument in my old Facebook neighborhood or whatever, and my blood sugar went whoop, and it was basically the reason why we moved out of that neighborhood. Like there's poop problems at the neighborhood pool, and I was like, this is ridiculous.
Remember this,
dude.
I have I have a different thing on it. Like for me, the food near bed isn't too bad. I actually do all right with that. I think my body responds really well to carbohydrates. We've kind of talked about this a few times.
You're also very training hard.
Yeah, I train extremely hard, at least 4 to 5 times a week. And I think it makes me a little bit more sensitive. For me, my quality of sleep, if I have a bad night, so I have a whole chart as well. I have a whole chart on a Google sheet of just tons of notes of blood sugar, like ate this, it did this, took this, it did this, slept like this, it did this. And it's interesting to look back. If I sleep badly, it is infinitely worse than eating badly before bed. Like if I snore, if I just wake up a couple times, if I go to sleep late, or if I take caffeine too late, like I'll wake up like 100, 105 the next day when I normally wake up around like an 85 to an 87.
Nice. Okay. So that's it's good to measure. It's good to know what's pushing your needle and everything. So.
Yeah. And to be fair, I'm also, I vary between 265 and 270. So waking up 85 to 100 isn't the worst thing. I believe it like 110 waking is really where you should start to worry, but like stress has been a huge impact on that. You know, if I'm in a stressed state, if I have a stressful week, like it just throws off my blood sugar completely.
What are you stressed about?
Listening to you worry about the world. Yeah.
This job should not stress you out too much unless it's
definitely
like
not the job.
I'm like, Ben, get that giveaway up. Come on. That's
not definitely not that stuff. This stuff's,
it's more like living in New Jersey right now. Is that stressful?
Yeah, I definitely last year I tried to make the best of it because like last year everyone stayed home in New Jersey, but like if I went out, like the roads were empty. It was awesome for me. I loved it, you know. And I wasn't wearing a mask anyway, so like it really didn't affect me. But I don't know, it's a good question. Like in general, what stresses me? Definitely listening to you talk about the world, but I'm a lot more neutral, you know, like where you have like these really heavy beliefs. I don't disagree with you, but I also just try not to think about it because the more, like for me in my personal like philosophy, the more I think about it, the more I give it weight, the more I give it power over me.
That makes sense. Do you want me to not do speaking as much to you?
You know, I don't watch the news, so it's probably good that you do talk to me.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I'm not watching mainstream news. That's for sure.
No, I just mean in general. Like if I didn't, I have frequently last year thought about getting off of social media outside of work, just having the PricePlow Instagram. I would have no clue what happens if I did that.
I guess, yeah, I do follow some accounts. Not a terrible thing unless there's disaster. My biggest concern in general is just the debasement of our currency. And
yeah, you've talked a lot about currency last year.
Yeah, well, they printed $10 trillion or whatever. Like, and it's to the point where, like, you know, my parents are boomers who are retired and everything, and my wife's mom and everything. Like, they see the prices rising, they see the issues happening, and they're concerned, and they need to make sure that they have enough runway to get to the end. It's like insane, and I feel bad for this is for you even like people who missed this whole real estate nonsense and everything. And so now you're kind of like getting into a house, which I have like very strong opinions on a lot of things, of course. I didn't want a house for a long time because I don't like owing anyone money or anything. But at the same time, I like having a place where there's not a landlord who's jerking me around once a year, and I can put holes in the wall, and I have a garden right over there and everything. And, you know,
yeah, that's been tough for me.
I do. It's important to me. And we just got hyperinflated, right? Like a lot of younger millennials and Zoomers just got hyperinflated right out of the housing market. I do think that'll return because I think long-term people realize that real estate and housing is not really a great store of wealth. And we need to get like land back to to productive, healthy use and everything, and start.
Unless you're somehow profiting off of it.
What's that?
Like if you own land and you're profiting off of it, then it's a good idea. But
but if people are buying real estate just because they don't know what to do with all this fake money, like that's not good. That's not sustainable. And so I do think that it'll come back to folks like yourselves. But these are my concerns, because what happened to me where we are right now in Texas. There's a drawback in Texas, the property taxes, and we found a neighborhood that's better than a lot of them around here, but I saw the prices of the houses selling. The next door went for a lot of money, and their house is smaller than ours. I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to retire because we are going to be forever enslaved by property tax. And like, so that was my like light bulb moment. And maybe it happened later than some people, but, and so that's where I started getting a little bit more doomy. And so I keep an eye on that kind of stuff. And so, and then it draws into like, protein prices are going up, everything's going up and everything. And to me, the money printer is a huge issue, and it hit real estate first. It's going to hit other things next. And so I do have a lot of doom about that. And I am worried that you're going to see like this entire middle class get leveled. And so these are the things that kind of start keeping me up a little bit. And there's like problems that I can't solve, but I don't want you putting your head in the sand either. Like, I want you to have a freezer full of meat. If nothing else.
I do. Don't worry.
Yeah. There we go. All right.
I think I have 45 pounds of beef in my freezer.
Oh, what is that for Ben? That's like 3 days.
Yeah, about 3 days. Yeah. But, I mean, in a situation like that, I would definitely bring my consumption down. But yeah, I signed a longer lease going forward because I have an awesome landlord. I'm really, really thankful. I ended up getting with a private owner of this condo. I'm not working with a company anymore. And just, I was very flat out with her. I was like, I have no interest in purchasing a house in the next year with the market right now. It's way too expensive. My sister's looking right now, and the only affordable things are ridiculous fix-ups. And while I would like to buy something like under like a normal cost and work on it myself, that's not the way that I want to go into this with the level that it's at right now. So I mean, I pay a fair price for where I live right now, and I'm cool with it for the time being, but I'm waiting until it's the time to strike for sure.
Sweet. You got to realize, landlord probably likes you. The fact that you do have a dog, but you're probably very low maintenance, low drama, and you paid the bill. Like,
well, that was funny.
Nonsense have to be necessary with you.
Yeah, that was what's funny is so she used to text me every first day of the month, like, hey, like, whatever. And I actually set up on Zelle a recurring payment. And I finally texted her. I was like, you don't need to hit me up. Like, this is going to happen for the next 12 months. You're going to be fine. Mm-hmm. And so it was funny because when it came time to start talking about the next lease, she was like, I heard from you like 5 times in 12 months. So, and that was for payments. That wasn't for any problems. And she ended up realizing that there had been issues that I had actually resolved myself. I had fixed things around the apartment with no problem. Like I don't like to call for help. I'm very omerta myself, and it's $20 here, whatever. Or like downstairs neighbors like ridiculously loud. Instead of calling the association, I went down and spoke to them myself. Little stuff like that. And so I think outside of my dog, which actually isn't a problem, I'm a landlord's dream in my opinion. So nice. Until I can find some land for myself, which won't be in New Jersey, I did decide that. I'm just gonna lay low here for a while.
Yeah. New Jersey's got some beautiful land. Like when I went there, Mark Glazer was like, yeah, we're called the Garden State for a reason. Yeah. You drive through and the leaves were changing and all that stuff. It's it is a beautiful state.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So you should though, with your landlord, at least let them know when you fix something up. Just as, hey, FYI.
I do. I let her know. Like I put a new shower head on. Like it was like $25 at Home Depot. Nice. It's not a big deal. Like little things like that, or like the dishwasher was slipping, so I fixed it with some liquid nails myself. But I like doing that stuff. And also, if you call your landlord, they have to call a handyman. You got to wait 6 days, and they show it's just a whole pain in the ass. And they're probably going to show up while I'm shooting some video and hear me yelling about pre-workout anyway. So it's like I just rather do stuff myself. I also just don't like seeing people. Like I'm very happy having like my secluded spot, and I like being alone here. So if I can do something myself, I will. Yeah,
you do. As long as you get out to the gym or talk to someone wherever, find your people.
That's like I bought a car last year, and I've put like no miles on it because I just drive to the gym and the grocery store. and that's it. And I've like been trying to like find other social things for me to do. Like there's a cigar store in town that I'll like go to like once a week and talk to people at it, because like I work from home, you know, like in a lot of ways I miss, and I know like I'd love to have an office with you and a headquarters where we could be together, but like even then it would still just be you and me, you know. There's I don't know,
we'd have to parade people in and out, but yeah, I hear you.
I don't know the last time you worked in like in an office setting, because I know you worked in sales, but that was kind of outside sales, right?
Yeah, so it would be end of 2006.
Yeah. Well,
Dude,
to be fair, you have a family that you see every day now.
The things that are going on in this world, like even before 2020, with like just the Me Too movement and everything. And the things I did at work in 2005, 2006 in that corporate office, I would not have lasted literally 3 days. Like, it would have been miserable. We at least had a little bit of fun. I tell you, I was born at the perfect age. I escaped a lot of this nonsense. For me, with my daughter and I, we go for little bike rides, and we go for like walks around the neighborhood. We always talk to people in the neighborhood, so we kind of know what's going on in the neighborhood. And when I am swimming, I'm still swimming. Dude, I'm a swimmer, and we are our people, and like I start talking to other swimmers, and just like those are my people that I end up talking to, and then just a couple neighbors swimming, and like at our daughter's school, they have like football games on Friday nights and stuff. So
that's cool.
We're getting out there and everything, but yeah, it's mostly, I knew this would happen eventually, is that outside of neighborhoods and athletics, your friends are going to end up being like kind of the cooler, the people you get along with out of the people who the other dads. Yeah. So trying to find those, those like minds who are fun to talk to and everything. And a lot of people say it gets harder as you get older, but it's I don't know. I think you become pickier as you get older.
I think you find the things that you connect with people better on, like I joke with my friends. I don't say hello to a lot of people at the gym, and some people get offended by that, but I have a list of people that I will communicate with, and you have to be worth more than my training for me to stop training to communicate with you. And I have a few training friends at the gym that if I see them, I always speak to them. And we found other ways to connect. Like this was a big topic at the end of 2020 when I've podcasted with Dan and Ryan from Ghost. Was we had played video games together the whole year during the quarantine and lockdown, because it was something that we connected on. We grew up playing Nintendo and stuff like that. So last year, and that was like another way that ironically a lot of my meathead friends and I ended up playing a lot of video games together and finding other ways to connect. Now a lot of my friends are starting to have kids and stuff, so I'm gonna have to get used to that. But you find other ways to connect with people, and it's just, you get a little bit more picky, but that's fine, because then you ended up with people that are like-minded. I don't find myself complaining about friends that don't agree with my political standings, because either we don't talk about it because we're adults, or I have found people. I mean, this isn't going to be controversial with you, but I find that anytime I meet with entrepreneurial minded people, they're all of the same social issue mindset. I don't want to say political, but people who are on their own generally have similar beliefs to we do.
The personal responsibility type thing, for sure. Yeah, for sure. You mentioned one thing, I lost my thoughts, so maybe we should just end it right there. But
this has been a really good one. I think we'll definitely have some interesting comments on this, because we went so far away from supplements in the second half, but I think it's good to show that side of us as well. I think that's one thing that we definitely don't do enough.
Yeah, well, it sounds like we're gonna be having aliens on eventually with Chris Waldrum. So
definitely get ready for that one, because Chris can really go on that. I usually have a rule with him that the first hour we do supplements, and the second hour he can go.
That works. Yeah, we just like at the end, real quickly at the end of our Dave Palumbo episode, he's talking about his snake breeding. Like we did, I know about Dave. I know about Dave's supplements. I don't hear about his snake breeding. So it's like, I think a little bit of both. Yeah, I think.
Absolutely. But I think you come on knowing that Chris owns a supplement company. We got to talk about that. But if you're coming on to hear from Chris, you also want to know who he is. And I think that you can't know who Chris is without learning about his belief in aliens and his family life. I definitely think the two of you will definitely connect on the daughter thing. He had some.
I was gonna say you're just
I think you did the blog post in the last podcast, so you probably heard a decent amount about how his life changed when he had a kid, which also changed his belief on his business, which I think is really important.
Sweet.
So,
all right, folks. Well, thanks for hanging in there and listening and everything. And we are proud to bring this back, and we're gonna have to just knock these out more often and bring on whoever. And so if you have any requests, maybe we can get them on too. Like we're not getting a Joe Rogan or a Stratosphere style person up there, but I think, various industry CEOs or athletes, or maybe there's a research study or like WTF on this, maybe we can try to get the researcher on. It's worth a shot. So
yeah. Well, so we'll finish off. I've got a couple of people coming up soon. We're doing first one this week, Matt Nickerson, founder of Vaso 6 or inventor of Vaso 6, and soon to come Cell Flow 6, which is a lot to talk about there, how it's different from the Vaso 6. We also have Chris Waldron coming up soon. The guys behind Raw and Revive, hopefully Chris Bumstead with them. And I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but Fuad Abiad, owner of Hostile, also is interested in hopping on with us, which is a very different person for us. And we don't talk with bodybuilders that are very often. So 4 big names or big groups of people that will be coming soon.
Awesome. I love those Hostile shirts.
He is his merch is almost as good as his supplements.
Yes.
Awesome.
All right. Signing off. Thanks everyone.